Chris Bridge, and I'm with Thea McCall.
Nice to be here again, Chris.
And we're talking about the Nicene Creed, because 2025 is the 1700th anniversary of the Council of Nicaea, which more or less came up with the Nicene Creed. So, as we've talked about in previous chats, the Nicene Creed, apart from the bit about the Holy Spirit, was formulated at the Council of Nicaea in 325. The bit about the Holy Spirit was added in 381 at the Council of Constantinople. And that little word about the Holy Spirit proceeding from the Father and the Son was snuck in the Western Church, but not in the Eastern Church. At some point, sort of over the centuries, until 1054, which was the great
schism. But there had been some disagreements about a lot of things before then, but
up to that point,
that finally caused the divorce, as it were.
Right. But so we've basically got the Nicene Constantinopolitan Creed in 381. So did that end the Arian heresy?
Well, I always thought it did. When I fumbled my way through Early Church History 101 as part of my theology degree, thoroughly enjoyed it. I also didn't read the second to last chapter of the textbook because I thought 381 was it. Everyone lived happily ever after and Orthodox Christianity came to the fore, but that's not the case.
No, indeed. So Theodosius came to power in 380, and at the Council of Constantinople in 381, which he sponsored, that's when they reaffirmed the Nicene Creed. But don't forget that he was only Emperor of the East at that stage. He didn't become Emperor of the combined empire until 394 or something, shortly before he died.
Yes.
And so up to that point, there was still Arianism in the West.
And lots of stories.
Yeah. So there's a fantastic story of Ambrose, the Bishop of Milan, who was around at that time.
Yes.
Ambrose is perhaps best known to us as the writer of various hymns, and the Te Deum is attributed to Ambrose, although I think the scholarly opinion is that he didn't actually write it
himself. He was also responsible for Augustine's eventual conversion to Christianity.
Right, he baptized Augustine.
Yes. So he's a fairly critical bishop.
Yes, and he was a Nicene. And but there's a story, I think it's 385, when the Western Emperor was Arian, and ordered some churches in Milan to be handed over to the Arians, and Ambrose refused to permit that, and there are stories of the congregations barricading themselves in and stuff like that. And here's a wonderful 16th century painting of Ambrose driving away the Arians, and the emperor backed down because
the emperor backed down.
Well, it was actually, I think the emperor was a junior at the time. It was his mother, Justina, who was a devout Arian, and they eventually backed down, which shows the power of
the bishops of the day. Yes. The famous Ambrose, but there were the pockets of Arianism even after 394.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There was even a famous debate between Augustine of Hippo, quite in his old age. So it was in 428, not long before he died. A few years before he died, in his hometown of Hippo. There was a debate between Augustine, one of the most authoritative church fathers, and an Arian bishop, which Augustine famously lost.
So let me get this straight. The famous Augustine of Hippo, one of the critical theologians from Western, certainly, theology. In fact, St. Thomas Aquinas, the medieval theologian, another really important theologian, got much of his inspiration from Augustine. That Augustine lost
a master rhetorician. So he was a teacher of rhetoric for most of his life.
Right.
Anyway, so it's probably worth noting that, particularly in the West, the religious question was not just Arianism versus Nicene Christianity. Especially the Western Roman Empire was still a majority pagan.
Yes, that's mind-boggling to think, isn't it? We just assume it that certainly after Constantine, and absolutely by 381 or shortly afterwards, that Nicene Christianity was the dominant religion across the empire, but not the case at all.
No, there were even there were Arian emperors, and there was even a pagan emperor. So Julian the apostate was famously
Pagan.
converted from he was raised a Christian, but famously converted to paganism. But he didn't last long, so he lost a war in the east and was killed in that. So he was only in power for a few years. And even well into the 6th century, there are stories of Emperor Justinian in the, I guess you could call the Byzantine Empire at that stage, the Eastern Roman Empire,
Yes.
having to carry out persecutions of pagans. So there were obviously pagans still around.
So after that, those periods, is Nicene Christianity the official state religion? Is Arianism and its sort of Arianism light siblings finally gone? Are we done with Arianism?
Well, so you'd think, wouldn't you, that 381 Council of Constantinople, the whole Roman Empire becomes Nicene.
Yes.
Under Theodosius.
Yes.
And pockets of paganism and pockets of Arianism are eventually stamped out.
Yes.
But no, the answer is no.
The answer is no.
Because by then, the Germanic tribes, which moved into brought about the collapse of the Western Roman Empire,
yes,
and established their own kingdoms there, were predominantly Arian.
So they were Arian. They were Christian, but they were the Arian version of Christianity.
Yeah. So Arianism was alive and flourishing in the West for another few centuries.
So now I need to go back and find out who my early church history lecturer was and ask him, why didn't you tell me this? Because this seems like a fairly critical piece of information.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting story, and we're going to talk about that in our next chat.
Excellent.